You sent the message, you saw the check mark, 2 of them, blue. And then, nothing. Hours passed. You checked your phone, checked again, put it face down, picked it up, refreshed. Nothing. And the worst part wasn't the silence. The worst part was what your brain did with it. They're ignoring me. Did I say something wrong? Maybe they're just busy. No. They posted a story 20 minutes ago. So they're not busy. So it's me. It's definitely me. You ran the entire conversation back. You searched for the moment you ruined it. You drafted a follow-up message, deleted it, drafted it again. You wondered if you were being too much. You wondered if you should say something. You decided not to. Then you wondered if saying nothing made it worse. All of this in the space of 6 hours over one unanswered text. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice asked, "Why does this affect me this much?" That's what this video is about. Not just being left on red, but what it reveals about them, about you, about the invisible architecture of how we connect with people, and what happens when that connection suddenly goes quiet. When you send a message to someone you care about, you're not sending words. You're sending a piece of your attention, a moment of vulnerability, a small signal that says, "I was thinking about you. You existed in my mind. I wanted you to know." That's not dramatic. That's just what it is. And when that signal disappears into silence, when it's received, read, and not acknowledged, your nervous system doesn't register it as "they got busy." It registers it as "I reached out." Nothing came back. Psychologists call this social exclusion signal processing, and it activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. A 2003 study by Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA put participants in an fMRI scanner and had them experience social rejection. The region that lit up? The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that activates when you stub your toe. Your brain doesn't distinguish between physical pain and social rejection. Being left on red isn't just uncomfortable. To your nervous system, it's a low-grade injury. Now, let's talk about the person on the other side, because here's what most people assume. If someone reads your message and doesn't reply, they don't care. They're avoiding you. They're pulling away. Something is wrong. Sometimes that's true, but more often, far more often than we acknowledge, the silence isn't about you at all. It's about them. Specifically about the way their nervous system was trained years before they ever met you to handle emotional closeness. This is attachment theory, and it's one of the most well-replicated findings in developmental psychology. In the 1970s, Mary Ainsworth identified that children develop distinct patterns of relating to caregivers based on early experiences of reliability and safety. Those patterns don't disappear in adulthood. They migrate into friendships, into romantic relationships, into the way a person responds or doesn't respond to a message at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. One of those patterns is called avoidant attachment. And people with avoidant attachment don't go silent because they don't care. They go silent because closeness feels threatening. Not consciously, not deliberately, but at a nervous system level, intimacy, need, emotional demand, it activates something that feels like danger. And their instinctive response to danger is distance. They close the app. They tell themselves they'll reply later. Later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes a week. And by then, the gap is so wide they don't know how to cross it, so they don't. This isn't cruelty. It's a coping mechanism that was built when they were very young, in environments where emotional expression wasn't safe, where needing people led to disappointment, where closeness came with conditions. Understanding this doesn't make the silence hurt less, but it changes what the silence means. Here's where it gets complicated. Because the people most devastated by being left on red are rarely random. There's a pattern. People with anxious attachment whose nervous systems were trained to read any distance as abandonment, to hypermonitor connection, to feel secure only when they have consistent reassurance, are magnetically drawn to people with avoidant attachment. And avoidant people are drawn to anxious people. It shouldn't work. And in the long run, it usually doesn't. But in the short run, it feels electric. The anxious person feels safe in the presence of someone emotionally self-contained. The avoidant person feels alive in the presence of someone who genuinely wants them. Until the avoidant pulls back. And then the trap springs. The anxious person reaches out more, sends the message, follows up. The increased pursuit triggers the avoidant's nervous system, too much closeness, and they retreat further, which confirms the anxious person's deepest fear. I am too much. People leave. I have to hold on tighter, which makes the avoidant retreat more. Psychologists call this the pursuer-distancer dynamic, and it can run for years. In friendships, in relationships, in families, two people who genuinely care about each other, locked in a pattern that hurts both of them, that neither of them chose, that both of them are largely unconscious of. The silence isn't the problem. The silence is a symptom. So, what do? First, you stop performing for your phone. The checking, the refreshing, the face-down, face-up ritual, that's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same mechanism that makes slot machines addictive. Variable rewards at unpredictable intervals create compulsive behavior. Your phone in this moment is a slot machine, and your brain is pulling the lever. Noticing this doesn't immediately stop it, but naming it gives you a small amount of distance from it. Second, you examine the story you're telling yourself. They read it and didn't reply is a fact. They read it and don't care about me and I'm too much and this is what always happens. That's an interpretation. A familiar one, maybe. A well-worn neural pathway, but not a fact. Third, and this is the harder one, you ask yourself what you're actually looking for. Because often the pain of being left unread isn't really about the message. It's about a deeper need for consistent presence, to know that you matter to someone even when they're not looking at you, to feel held even at a distance. That need is real. It's human. It's not too much. But no single text reply, no matter how fast or warm or perfectly worded, can actually fill it. That need gets addressed at a different level, through patterns over time, through people who show up consistently, not perfectly, through your own growing ability to self-regulate, to hold yourself with the steadiness you're searching for in someone else's screen. There's something strange that happens when you stop trying to decode the silence. You start to see it more clearly. Some silences are avoidance. Some are overwhelm. Some are emotional immaturity. Some are just people living their lives, carrying their own weight, not thinking about their inbox the way you're thinking about yours. And some silences, the ones that repeat, that follow patterns, that leave you in the same place every time, those silences are information. Not about your worth, about compatibility, about capacity, about whether this person, as much as you might care about them, has what it takes to actually show up for you. The cruelest thing about being left unread is that it rarely comes with an explanation. You're left to interpret the quiet. And interpretation, run by a nervous system primed for threat, defaults to, it's me. It usually isn't. What it usually is, two nervous systems shaped by different histories, trying to do intimacy, and not quite knowing how. You read it, you didn't reply. That sentence is about someone else. But if this video landed for you, there's a good chance it's also sometimes about you. We all go silent sometimes. We all leave gaps we don't know how to fill. We all have moments where closeness feels like too much and distance feels like the only way to breathe. The work isn't to become someone who never goes quiet. The work is to become someone who can say, "I need a moment, but I'm not going anywhere," and to find people who can say that back. Being shared. Psychology for the things you feel but can't explain. If this found you at the right time, share it with someone who might need it too.